Hello, everyone. I am X, your host today, and welcome to the XYZ Podcast. This is episode 1. I've tried, I've talked about random things, but I've, I've attempted to record this a few times, but today, this time around, I finally know what I want to talk about. Because this is something that's very special to me, very dear to my heart, because I've had to live with it my entire life. And yeah, so grab some popcorn, enjoy your commute, enjoy your sleep, or just enjoy listening to a random autistic kid mumble and rant about stuff while I play Subnautica. Today's topic is all about autism. Because I'm going to be honest, a lot of the autistic seminars and autistic assemblies that you see is all about, it has a lot of more neurotypical people talking about it. And I actually am of the belief that who better to talk about a mental disorder than someone who has said mental disorder? Because you don't know because someone who's neurotypical doesn't understand what we go through, truly. So the first thing that I want to talk about is probably the most talked about subject. And this subject that is probably the most talked about subject is autistic people see the world through a different in a different lens. Now, you might be wondering, the fuck does that mean? Well, most people think that it's, well, at least I thought that it was literal, which was actually part of the autism. No, we don't see colors differently, usually, but that's not exactly the autism. That's called being colorblind. No, we don't see. No, we don't. I mean, some of us see projections like you see in The Good Doctor or Young Sheldon, but. And I mean, I kind of do sometimes, but that's more of imagination. Autistic people are always seem to be a little bit more in touch with their imagination. No. What I'm talking about is what they mean by that is that it appears and it seems to me like autistic people don't see the world always with emotion. I have this switch, like this thing kind of like a switch. Basically, I can turn off almost all emotion. There's always some emotion, but I can turn off most of the emotion from my thoughts and from my ideas easily. And that's what I believe that they mean by autistic people see the world through a different lens. Because a lot of people that I've met who have autism, like me, and I myself see the world objectively. And I'm gonna be honest, seeing the world objectively is a little odd. So I'm gonna try to explain it the best that I possibly can to show you guys an example of what I would think of. So, and think of some random topic. So, just think about a random topic. Could be political, could be not political, could be religious, could be not. Doesn't matter. Then, think about it and then completely erase all thing. Then try your best to think about it without the prior. Well, I mean, with you know what? Let's think about this from a lens of someone like me, just getting into this new religion that I just found out about, and I like studying religions. So, think about this, then completely erase all knowledge that you know. Only know random little facts that you might find on YouTube Shorts. Okay? Then completely erase all emotional ties that you may have with it. Then try your best to remove all emotional thoughts behind it. Like, for example, do I want this after death? For example, for the afterlife, do I want this after death? Is this going to be good for me? What would my parents think? All of that. No, just look at it for what it is. Somewhat like in a vacuum. You doing that? Good. That is basically the closest that I can explain to people who aren't autistic how I think. Now you might be like, wait, that's so odd though. Don't you think about the effect? Don't you think about the effects afterlife? The effects of the afterlife, how you want to live. Don't you want the best of the best stuff for yourself? And while yes, I do believe of that, I do have that ideal. I also do not believe that requires emotions. I am also keep your mind open to all ideals. Now, let's see here. What else can I show you guys how to? Oh, we're pausing the game for this one. So, young Sheldon and the Good Doctor don't exactly do this as well. So, I want to explain some stuff that I've seen online about those things. So, let's talk about the obvious thing. First things first. Young Sheldon and always getting in quote unquote trouble. Let's say, for example, the fridge stuff. He disassembled the fridge to figure out what was wrong with it. Now, you look at that and you see that it's a young person that's unqualified for this, who doesn't know, who you think that doesn't know a thing about refrigerator technology. Okay? Let's look at this from his perspective. He is obviously capable of disassembling this, meaning that he has obviously had prior knowledge about it, and when it comes to things that autistic people are actually into, prior knowledge is important. We don't actually have to be taught properly how things work. I was basically shown the inside of a controller, asked a few questions, and now I'm literally the go-to for many, many people that I know of, because I've shown my expertise in controller repair. Note, I only had my mom help me take apart one controller. And most of that was what I did. And then I fixed a controller that was having so many issues. Like stick drift, buttons were not responding. And the only thing I broke was that I had a pinched wire, because the controllers are built upside down. So, obviously, you can see this. You can see that sometimes autistic people don't exactly need as much formal training. But let's go back to the main thing, because I'm getting sidetracked. So, young Sheldon, he obviously has prior experience, and he takes apart the fridge to see what's wrong because he wants to be helpful to his family, which is something that honestly I would do. I have at multiple points taken apart things and fixed them for my family because I wanted to be helpful without their prior telling me to, without any prior knowledge of how to work it. Then he's just like, well, I figured out what's wrong. And then he's just like, good news and bad news. I figured out what's wrong with the fridge. Bad news. I don't know how to reassemble the fridge. Or it could have been like, bad news, I can't reassemble the fridge. Which could mean that the issue was that one of the... Because autistic people are also... In a right household, autistic people, especially high-functioning autistic people, are really good at finding workarounds to things. Like, best example that I can give of something that I did, this microphone. For a while there, I thought that this microphone did not come with the proper piece or did not come with one of the pieces. I later found it in my bed because we can be oblivious as hell. Autistic people can be oblivious as hell. But, you know what I did? I didn't panic or return it. No. I whipped out my toolbox, took out some spare parts that I had, and I built my own attachment to it. And if that's not commitment, I don't know what is. Now, this does have a bit of a caveat. Because you're probably hearing this and are just like, wow, so autistic people have the ability to not only learn how to do this pretty quickly, but also can do... what's the downside? Well, one, not all autistic people can do this. Two, people seem to think that low-functioning autistic people can't do this, and what I say to that is not always the case, but sometimes is the case. But also, it has a caveat. Think of autism like a superpower. I have the ability to learn anything that I'm interested in. Basically, I'm very hands-on. I have always had lower rough motor functions. Like when we were doing some testing and everything for one of the groups, they noticed that I would have trouble jumping off a curb, unlike other kids, but I could build a complex tower out of blocks, and I knew engineering skills from a young age. Actually, I had to learn the hard way that it's not normal for kids to be able to engineer a bridge that could withstand its own weight pretty easily. Like how Maggie Simpson can build like complex structures easily. That's what I could do. Heck, I got Legos, and I can build very complex structures. I can build, like, what was it? One time I built a marshmallow and toothpick bridge that was so structurally stable that my friend added it. So the creative type, we tested it. We added it to one of his train tracks with one of his proper, relatively heavy trains, and added a relatively medium weight track to it, and it held up really steady. And it's not just that I know how to do this, it's that I can also teach it. But the caveat is, things that I'm not interested in, I struggle with a lot. For example, highly complex math, pre-calculus. I don't really like pre-calculus, and I do struggle with pre-calculus. But topics in pre-calculus I'm good at. PE and gym class, I struggle with. But anything that I work with my hands, also imagination stuff like writing stories, I'm so amazing with. But then when it comes to when it comes to psychology, I'm not as good at. My 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 expertise has always come in things that I fiddle with my hands. Assembly, welding, things that usually require more fine motor skills. And that's the caveat to the autism. Yeah, you get this kid that's if you have an autistic kid, yeah, you get this kid that's like really really good at more fine motor skills and such. But then you have issues with the fact that they're not good at other things. Now, I'm lucky. I'm a high-functioning autistic that has... What the fuck? I'm a high-functioning autistic that has been able to mostly he use my disorders as a tool. But I know other people that aren't as, smart. Smart. Not as, well, I shouldn't say smart, but I know other people that aren't as gifted. Also, another caveat of having an autistic child is that, believe it or not, this podcast is actually a relatively good example of what my parents, who have lived with me my entire life, have to go through on a regular basis. Believe it or not, I'm actually more introverted. However, my overall extensive knowledge on certain topics and my varying beliefs cause it to be more difficult for me to, at times, contain. Oh yeah, also sometimes when you're autistic, this happens randomly. I don't know when it happens. It might just be me, but randomly I start talking sophisticated. Like, that's also caused issues for me, because people are just like, why are you talking so sophisticated? Do you think that you're better than me? And I'm just like, no, I do not believe that I'm better than you. Nor do I believe that I'm more intelligent than you. I just simply am speaking how I would usually speak. I'm using 2%. I'm using my... Yeah. Also, you can't exactly just have an autistic person. So my mother is... my mother's an Aspie. Meaning that she has Asperger's. Also, 100%. I 100% definitely can say that. And it's not just like me saying the N-word, because not only is my mother it's not just the fact that my mother's an Aspie, but also I am a little closer to being an Aspie. Hold on, I will be right back. So, I think that you guys can still hear me. Just in case, though, I'm going to turn the volume all the way up so I can check something. But while I get up and do this, I'm also going to be continuing to speak on this, while attempting to not break my camera. So, Autism is relatively more genetic. Hold up, gotta be right back. Also, there's been a case study that I was told by my mother about, that not sure if it's true or not, but would be very interesting if it is true, that apparently it appears that there's a chance that being LGBTQ, specifically being part of the trans community, could be tied to autism, which would be very interesting because basically I don't know a single person that is trans who isn't, or is part of the trans community even, that isn't autistic. Now, I know autistic people who aren't part of the trans community, but I myself am part of the trans community. So, just little nuggets of thought. But, yeah. Life living with autism is actually somewhat normal. I require my own personal space, and I have, at a few points, I will admit, I have at a few points attacked, well, at least one time I did attack a teacher due to her violating my personal space and not respecting the fact that I required my space. And so I slapped her. That was a very, very much younger me. And as you can see, one of the downsides... Are you good? I don't think that they're doing fine. But, like, this incessant rambling is called info dumping, and it is a thing that autistic people do quite frequently. Yet another thing that you'll have to deal with if you want a autistic child is that we all have an obsessive tendency. For me, so for my friend, Rainbow, I believe that his obsessive tendency is Binding of Isaac, but it could be some other things. For my friend, the creative type, you might notice on his channel there is quite a bit of there's quite a bit of content about trains. That's his obsessive thing. And for me, well, I've always been into dinosaurs. Actually, I am quite interested in, so it's not just dinosaurs anymore, but it is also reptiles. And I'm still quite interested in it. I also have a speech impediment, but that's a story for a different thing. But yeah, also, if you have autism, there's a good chance that the autistic person will have something called a comfort item. This comfort item, it's different it is wildly different from person to person. And people can have different comfort items, but usually someone only has one comfort item. This comfort item can be developed at any single point in time, but you will most likely know that it is a comfort item of the autistic persons, because unless they are comfortable at a location, fully comfortable at a location, and even if they're not fully comfortable at said location, if they are fully comfortable at said location, they will most likely they might still carry this. Basically, it is a magic thing. For example, if you ever see me in real life, you might notice that I always carry around a plush Umbreon. I have a friend that carries around a blanket. I have been known, at times, to have slight panic attacks. Well, to have had slight panic attacks. At school. Now, I never told my parents about this, but I would panic and I would basically try to take my mind off of it as much as possible. But I always carry around that plush Umbreon. This plush Umbreon is named Dusk. It is my comfort item. I had a prior comfort item, but that's also another thing.
Emergency. A quantum detonation has occurred in the Aurora's drive core. The reactor will reach a supercritical state. 10, 9,
Ooh,
8,
let's watch this.
7,
6, 5, 4, 3.
2.
So anyway, though, yeah. Also, so yeah. That's... Now let me tell you about some of my experiences as someone with autism. Not just talking about that one time that I slapped a teacher. So, I've had many experiences that people have, that I've been like, oh yeah, well, I'm autistic. So, quite a few of them have been people asking me the same thing. What is life with autism? And honestly, it's kind of normal. I mean, I do talk. I do tend to hyperfixate. Also, there's a good chance that if you're autistic, you have ADHD or ADD, which makes me hyperfixate even more. But as someone with autism, I don't really pick up on cues. Like, there's no reading the room for me. I'm just like, read the room? The actual fuck you talking about? Does the room have words? Read between the lines, me. That's the thing also. I take everything literally. Now, another thing is, you think that fake claiming, and if you think that fake claiming is bad for people with certain other disorders like the ID, then, oh. Also, if you think that it's not if you also think that it's, not the same, or, you know, sorry, I have issues focusing on two tasks at once. Even though, what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to having autism, people will take one look. I will tell someone that I have autism, and they'll be like, "Well, no, my I know someone with autism, and you're." They will say, like, "You're trying to do this, that, and the other. You're trying to get something out of it, or something." I've been fake claimed multiple times about having autism. And that's the thing. People don't seem to understand it. Also, people seem to look at media like young Sheldon. Like, someone literally once heard me say I have autism and then asked me to talk about, like, the quadratic formula. And I'm just like, the fuck you talk about? People expect that if you're a high functioning autism, that apparently you're just some sort of super genius. Now, I'm gonna say that that's actually based in a fact, at least for me, but I don't know everything. But people have sometimes expected me to. Also, there's always this depiction of people with autism that's just this puzzle piece, autism awareness puzzle piece and whatnot, and I'm always just like, the fuck do you mean? What does this puzzle piece have to do anything with my disorder? Like, hold on. Let me just look this up, because I have never once thought about it. I've never once understood it. And you guys might understand it more. Just, kind of thinking similar, but, just slightly different. But, I don't know. I'm legitimately looking this up. Why is autism depicted with puzzle pieces? Because I am truly and honestly interested in figuring out why neurotypicals... Okay, so puzzle piece symbol for autism was adopted in the 1960s by the National Autistic Society in the UK. And the choice was based on the following reasons. Representation of complexity. Well, yes, we are quite. Highlighting the need for understanding the incomplete nature of the puzzle piece represents the challenges and misunderstandings that individuals with autism often face. Medical model influence. All the time, the medical model of autism prevailed, which viewed autism as a disorder that needed to be diagnosed and treated. The puzzle piece reflected this perspective, suggesting that autism was a puzzle to be solved. However, it is important to note that the puzzle piece symbol has been increasingly controversial in recent years. Many autistic individuals and advocates have find it offensive and outdated, as it reinforces negative stereotypes about autism, that the autistic people are incomplete or broken. They prefer alternate symbols, such as the infinity symbol or the rainbow flag. Rainbow flags, I hate to break it to you, break it to you, fellow autistics, fellow slow people, but the rainbow flag's kind of used by the LGBTQ+, but the infinity symbol, actually, I like. It doesn't, like... Now I actually understand why autism has been depicted how it has been this entire time. You see, the thing is, And this is no fault of your guys' own. I know that you guys do try your best, but neurotypicals tend to not fully understand it. Autism isn't a puzzle in needing of a solution. Autism is something that's complex, but is also fun. It's not a puzzle, it's life. Best way that I can explain it, it's not a puzzle, it's just, how we live. And honestly, I never thought about it like that, but yeah, I kind of do find it offensive if it enforces the stereotype of us being broken. I mean, you guys listening to me right now. Am I broken? I mean, yeah, I sound like a fucking broken like radio station that keeps on yapping and yapping, but that's because I use podcast info dump. But I'm not broken. In fact, I'm of the belief that I am... What did I fucking go out and get? Oh, shit tons of those. I'm of the opinion, in fact, that I'm the opposite of being broken. I am... Now, the rainbow flag is for LGBTQ+. But the infinity symbol to me, thinking complexly, represents... I feel like that represents the infinite expansive knowledge that an autistic person could use, or the infinite levels of autism that you could have. The infinite complexity that is this disorder. The never-ending joy that one can actually get from talking to and learning from one of us autistic people. The never-ending amount of knowledge that an autistic person will have about their favorite topic. The creative type knows more about any trains than I do. I know a lot about dinosaurs, reptiles, but more importantly, and more frequently, my obsessive tendency is video game related. I can tell you so much about video games. It's not funny. Then, with rainbows, I'm pretty sure it's Binding of Isaac. So that makes a little bit more sense. Also, you guys were thinking that you would be able to fix us? Yeah. Are you sure? Are you positive? Because the implications that you're giving is that the implications of fixing autism is that you guys can somehow why would you guys want to fix us? We're not dangerous. We're not Yeah, I 100% agree. I do not like the puzzle piece depiction, because that is kind of offensive. Like, so I actually have a few fun stories. So I hang out with a lot of autistic people. But one of the best things that you can do when you hang out with a lot of autistic people is you can have what I like to call info dump conversations. When I'm around with my autistic friends, our conversation sounds kind of one-sided sometimes to outsiders. But in reality, it's really not one-sided. To put it very simply, when you, to put it as simply as I physically can, when you're hanging out with autistic people, you will learn you will just learn a lot. Let's say. Did I pick something up? Oh, I thought I did. You will learn a lot. Now, I will say that some people have made mistakes before. So, one of my favorite stories to tell is that... So, it's always fun when someone who understands autistic people well enough ask you about something that you're interested in. Cause so I once had someone that legitimately did ask me about one of my interests. And you know that it's gonna be a good friend if they are willing to sit through a good chunk of time just listening to you ramble on and on about it. Like, I have at multiple points sat next to neurotypical people, and they asked me, hey, they're just asking me stuff like, what's this about? What's this about? And so I tell them, you know, this, that, or the other about things. I gotta be very careful about the Reaper that's here. But like, if you ask an autistic person, if you ask an autistic person about their hyperfixations, you will learn stuff that you never thought that you would know. Like, I had someone ask, like, this person asked me, I think it was something about, like, the story of Subnautica or something. What was it? Yeah, I think it was this. No. I had a neurotypical person ask me if I could explain to them, because they were getting into Hollow Knight, what the story of Hollow Knight was. And I told them very, very distinct detail what the story of Hollow Knight was. And so what they did was they actually he listened to me yap for, I will admit, it was quite a bit of time.
Aurora systems are running on local reserve power, unable to remotely download black box data.
But yeah, like, another thing is that people, so it's more normal for people to be less akin to tight spaces. Having claustrophobia is apparently a more neurotypical thing. And I have had multiple people at multiple times ask me, hey, what, be like, hey, I noticed that you're like really, really okay with being in tight spaces. Like, I would hide in corners, and they'd be like, hey, are you okay? You seem to be very, very interested in that corner. And I've had to explain to them, like, oh, yeah, I'm perfectly fine. I'm just mentally ill. Nah, but I'm just like, oh, yeah. My autism and ADD make me enjoy tight spaces and make me want to make said tight spaces the best. Do I have auto run on? I don't think that I have auto run on. Yeah. I have to look up logs. Another thing is that so another thing that I've had to live with is ADD. Now, if you know anything about ADD or ADHD, you know that it means that I switch topics and I can't stay on one topic for way, way, way too long because I start to lose interest. I also hyperfixate on topics. So, what I want to do is, yeah, I want to also explain to you how my life with the ADD has also 1454. Yep, I had it. I figured that it would be that. Now, another thing that I will say is, so there's another funny thing that I want to mention about autistic people. We have a reputation for being a little weird when it comes to certain things. And I wanted to explain to you guys why we have said reputation. There we go. God dang it, bleeders. Okay. So, I don't know, I kind of lost my train of thought. But, like, oh yeah. So, textures and touches. Us autistic people are more in sync with our senses of our sense of touch, our sense of, well, basically everything. And yes, that does mean that us autistic people do in fact suffer from the amazing, massive annoyance that is texture issues. I have texture issues, is what I'm trying to say. I also have a odd personal space bubble. If you refuse to obey by my personal space bubble, I will. It is common for autistic people to get a little, violent when it comes to people disrespecting their personal space. Completely, normal. So if you want to, now, one thing is that don't blame us. We will, people like blaming us, I guess, if you disrespect our personal space, and we feel threatened. Because that's the big thing. It isn't we don't want to be touched at that time or anything. It is we feel threatened. Now, there is a way to, there is a way to calm us down. But that also involves... Now, I guess I should cover the full effects of the magical autism item that is the comfort item. I briefly covered it already. So, the comfort item is a magical item that, to any neurotypical person, just seems like a random toy or random object. But how people are, you know, somewhat familiar with the stereotype of like little Susie can't go to school, or can't do this, that, and the other. I forgot to make that. It's fine. We can come back. Honestly, I might just restart. Next episode. But, I'm just gonna pause for a bit to just, chat with you guys. And also because I want to lay down now, so I'm going to lay down now. So, 1. If an autistic person does not have their comfort item, do not, under any circumstances, make them, do not, under any circumstances, make them, well, disrespect their personal space. Now, I know that what you're saying. Oh, it's the real world. These people are, these guys are just little snowflakes that can't handle being uncomfortable. No. It is our brain working differently. And, if I would say, if you value your, if you don't want to get attacked or don't want to be, because, you know, things can be, I shouldn't say if you don't want to get attacked. Usually autistic people don't attack, but we require our comfort items. We also stim, which is a thing that ADHD people do and ADD people do. It's not exactly autism. I'm getting sidetracked again. The best way that I can explain to you what the comfort item is a fix-all. You will notice that if someone with autism has a comfort item and has their comfort item with them, then they become much more nice, happy, willing to do work, all that stuff. We also tend to treat... Now, I have never once seen an autistic person treat their comfort item bad. I, for one, love my comfort item as like my own child. I love Dusk. I know that Dusk is just a little plushie. But, yeah. Also, unless you are specifically... So, the thing is, it's not just that we're oblivious and can't read the room. It's that... it's not just, you know, we're oblivious and can't read the room. It's that we don't understand that at all. Even if you can read the room, if you're face to face with an autistic person and you see their comfort item, and, like, I understand, you know, if their comfort item is away from them, then, you know, you might feel like, hey, let me make this situation better for them. Let me help them a bit. And touch their comfort item and give it to you. And sometimes that will work. But I would suggest that you give them personal space. And do not touch that. Treat the comfort item like the holy book of your religion. Something that you keep sacred. Something that you don't let anyone else touch. Think of it like that. It is sacred. The comfort item is a sacred thing that, I'm going to be honest, if someone with autism is willing to let you touch their comfort item with him more than once and, like, gives you their comfort item, take that as the highest honor. Like, okay, I had one... That brings me to another story. I had one person once that understood my autism and understood comfort items. Well, I've had multiple people, but I've had one person that I got really, really comfortable with. And one time, I was quite comfortable because I have multiple comfort items. So I had one of my other comfort items. And they were having a bad day. Now, this also happened once when they were having a good day, but I have been like, oh yeah, hey. And I've given them, tried to, you know, give them my comfort item. Because to me, if they feel uncomfortable, then comfort item helps. And you know what? And this one person, this time, the one person that I did this to that I'm talking about, they actually understood it. They politely declined, but basically they understood at that point that I was comfortable with them. We do not give comfort items out. Another thing, yet another thing is that I've seen people try to do this before. Because they were trying to. So one time I saw someone trying to get their autistic kid to be a fan of something that they wanted to be a fan of. That's fine. It wasn't working that well. But they tried to get the said autistic kid to imprint on something on a certain thing that they hoped would get the kid to become a fan of the thing that they wanted their kid to be a fan of. So they tried to get it to imprint on it, and they got a little upset when the kid imprinted on something else. And that's another thing that I want to say. When you have an autistic person, don't try to make them imprint on something. Also, don't rush the process. Everyone has a different all autistic people have a different comfort item. All autistic people have different comfort items in general. So, yeah. Like, it took me a while. Like, I kept on having plushies that were basically my comfort item. But one day I finally imprinted on Dusk. Another thing that I want to mention is that you can have a person over, and say that an autistic person is going over to a house that they're used to, but is going over with a new person that they just met. That will cause more discomfort, so give them their comfort item. Now, there are a few high honors. Now, this might not apply to all autistic people, but I'm going off of my experience with autism. So, take this with a grain of salt, but just note that there are quite a few people that I know like me. So, yeah. So, here are some high honors that if someone with autism, someone with autism and ADHD, these are some high honors that if you are chosen and they choose you about this, understand that you have gained their trust. First things first. At least for me, I'm very charitable. I literally give like quarters, coins, sometimes dollars to random friends of mine, and I just say, I don't know, for the lols. It's just something that I compulsively do at times. But there's also an area called the comfort space. Now, this is more common, I guess, I guess it is with autistic people, but there's something called the comfort space. Usually, an autistic person will let you touch and hold their comfort item before letting them into the comfort space. So, for example, I'm in my comfort space. This is my bed. I have my window. Everything here is familiar to me. I have a rule. that I've okayed with literally everyone. The rule is that half of my bed over there, they can mess with it. Heck, you can come into my room if you want. But the only people that I'm aware of that I was okay with touching my comfort space was my parents. And my grandmother once. But the only others, I guess, were my best friends and my girlfriend. This area here is my comfort space. This little corner next to my wall. I have so much stuff here that's comforting. I have my entire setup here, which is called an ADD pile, which adds to the comfort because it has everything that I would need. I love. Like, I have my tools, my mechanical stuff. Honestly, my entire room is technically my comfort space, which, to put it very bluntly, I've only once had one of my parents stomp up here when I was in trouble, stomp up here, slam open my door, and violate that. And let's just say it did not go that well. So I was being a jerk, little kid jerk, but you do not violate the comfort space. Actually, that's kind of partially the reason why my comfort space kind of switched a bit to this corner. Now, one thing that you will also learn about autistic people is that, and you probably have heard a lot, is comfort. Comfort, 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 comfort. And you're just like, comfort? Comfort? Do you really think that the real world's gonna give you comfort, kid? No, the real world ain't gonna give you comfort. And to that, I say, I'm aware. I'm fully aware that the real world's not going to give me comfort. Why do you think we have comfort items? Why do we think that we have a comfort space? The comfort space and the comfort item are where we go to for the comfort that we need. Which is why it's always important to inform people that you have autism. 'Cause it really affects my life. But I think that that's all the time that I'm gonna have for this. If you guys did enjoy, consider liking and subscribing, commenting down below. Yeah. If you have any more comments about autism, I am glad to share my experience and knowledge. Note that I can't speak for everyone, because autism comes in an infinite amount of shapes, sizes, variants. But also note that... But also, remember what I taught you, because an autistic friend is a really good friend. I mean, yeah, autistic people are humans, but a lot of the time, if you have a friend with autism, behind all that mindless rant, not mindless, but obsessive ranting about everything, there's usually a good person behind that. And I know for a lot of people that you guys like high honors. Being honored highly. So, wear that with pride. I don't care. I really don't care, and I have a friend that more recently I was okay with them touching Dusk, and they wore that with pride. They're just like, I am allowed to touch an autistic person's comfort item. And I'm just like, high honor, like I said. But yeah, see you in the next episode. I gotta reach over here now. Thank you for listening to the first episode of the XYZ podcast. It has been my dream for the longest time to make a podcast. Mostly because I like having a place to info dump. And this is said place. If you guys enjoyed this, and if you guys have any questions on the topic that was brought up today, then comment down below. Consider liking, subscribing. We're almost to 40 subscribers, and at 50 subscribers, I have a very special video that I'm going to be making. Comment down below. I really do read all the comments. And yeah. Thank you for letting this become something that I could do. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next episode. Thanks for listening.